Okay, new luminaries. Today we are talking about how to attract amazing people to your business and your life. This is such an important topic. One, because we are in the business of providing and finding strategies for life's issues. And one of the major issues in life, and a major issue that we're seeing in the industry, is recruiting. And how I think about it for my personal life is just attracting great people. Now, I could say, I'm going to brag a little bit. I think I've done an amazing job of attracting the most wonderful, talented, loving, compassionate, high character, high vibe, whatever you want to call it, people into my life. I just have. And the best example of that was recently at my wedding. I just looked and saw everyone that was there, and I'm like, these are some amazing people. I mean, just the best people in the world. And I have had the privilege of having the majority of my adult life having being surrounded by these people. And I realized that's not a reality for many people. And there's a direct connection to the quality of people that you have around you and surrounding you to the quality of your life and how quickly your life progresses. And it's just like anything else, right? Like we've all heard of the rule of five. You know, your life reflects the five people that surround you the most. But what people don't talk about is for every one person that you have in your life that is a bad example or a negative influence on you, or just a negative influence in general, you need to have 3 to 5 more people in your life that are a positive influence to counteract that. It's the same rule in business. For that one employee that you have that's terrible, that's negative, that's always complaining, that's not focused, that isn't really down with, what we're trying to accomplish, that doesn't want to be there, whatever that is, for each person that's like that, you need at least 3 or more people to counteract that energy. Otherwise, it tears the team down. And I'm going to say you need 4. And if you want to play it super safe, you need 5. And so the whole point is, what's the purpose of keeping that one person around if you have to find ways of, being, a superhero, you got to find all these superheroes on the other side. When it's easier just to say, you know what, I don't need this influence in my life. And I mean, it's just like anything else. Say you're in a relationship and you're like, you know what, I want to be monogamous. I want to stay faithful to my wife, husband, or whatever, or to my partner. But let's say you spend time with people who do a lot of cheating. At some point, you're going to find yourself in the environments, having the conversations, soaking in the mindsets, making the excuses of those who choose not to stay monogamous. It's going to be very difficult. If you spend time with people who do drugs or whatever else, eventually you're going to find yourself in a room. Maybe you're not doing heroin, but you're going to end up doing something over time. And that's the thing. It's not one of those things to where having negative influences in your circle, in your business, in your life. It's not one of those things that just happens at once where they're just like, you're out of here, and they just pour all their energy. It's like a slow drip. Like, oh, okay, I'm just going to drip this on you. Eventually, until I've watered whatever this mindset is enough for it to grow. And for it to grow inside of you, and eventually you're taking on the same mindsets as these individuals. And we all know that you are going to think your way into a specific behavior. We think our way into our actions, but it starts off with the thought, which turns into a belief system, which eventually turns into action, and you taking action on it, right? And then once you take action on it, you may experience the pain of the regret. Or the worst part of it is you may take action on it and nothing happens. So it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it takes the whole house down. But the goal is for that not to happen, okay? So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to write down every challenge or problem that you're experiencing in your business and in your life. And write it all down. financial, maybe it's some relational things. Maybe you need to find better employees. Maybe you're having a hard time closing deals, where you need better sales. Maybe you're having a hard time, balancing your family dynamic. Some of you are having a hard time maybe getting ahead due to debt or financial challenges. It could be, your mental health, and staying balanced with, trying to accomplish what you need to accomplish, but also balancing that with your mental health. It could be, it could be someone else in your household that you're trying to help and balancing, being a helper or a caretaker with, your career. It could be maybe your business has been in a downward slope and you don't know how to get yourself out of it. Maybe you're having a hard time developing others, and that, maybe the people that you work with just aren't performing. Maybe your employees aren't performing. There's a myriad of things, but I just want you to take a moment, press pause, do whatever, and write down exactly what has been challenging you. Everything. Now, once you write out everything, right? And that list could be a list. It could be one thing. It could be 10 things. It could be a laundry list of things, right? But once you write it down, what I want you to do is leave a blank next to it, right? But there is a person out in this world that is the answer to that problem. It may be you. It may be a colleague. It may be a parent. It may be a coach. It may be a therapist. It may be someone you see on YouTube. Maybe it's someone at a seminar. Maybe someone within your network, someone within your company. Maybe it's a peer group. It could be a team, a department, a network. But there's always someone out there who inside of them, they are the answer to your problems. Sometimes it's that one person that walks in the door that you hire that can completely change the trajectory of your company and your business. And I don't know if you guys saw what I posted, but oftentimes this is how we miss that person. Oftentimes that person gets on our last nerve. They don't have the personality we tend to hang out with. They ask a lot of questions. They nag. They contradict. They push back. They ask that one question we didn't want to be asked, or that one question that we don't have the answer to. They push us. They do all of these things, right? For some of us, we may have married that person, and they become our life partners. But either way, the answer to all of our problems lies within a person, because it takes people to accomplish something. Now that we live in the world of AI and all this other stuff, we kind of forget the fact that nothing moves on earth unless there's a person or a group of individuals moving it. Before all this technology was created, and even while all this technology is created, there were people that have been developing it and pushing it forward. And there's still systems at play that decide whether or not it's successful. Right now everyone's talking about the metaverse and the multiverse and all of these different things, right? But guess what? None of it is successful without the participation of people. If we all woke up and decided, hey, you know what? We're not doing Facebook anymore. We're sending out letters in the mail and invitations in the mail. We're going analog. The stock for, UPS and all of that, and the mail system, that's going to go up, and Facebook and Meta and everywhere else would just tank, right? Because it's people who decide the direction in which society goes, and we decide what's going to be successful and what's not. And so the name of the game is to attract the right people to where not only you can see success, your business can be success, and also that you can contribute back to. And the problem is, we've all been told this lie. We've been told that life is about us. Everything is based on what we do, what we're able to contribute, just very individual focus. And it's almost as though we've seen life and we've taught that life is like being on a ladder, And on this ladder, we're just climbing up, climbing up, climbing up, challenge by challenge, bar by bar, until we get to, our destination. And the bars that we go up the ladder on are the challenges. When really the challenge in itself is deciding to go up and continuing to progress forward, and making it the goal in the first place. But those bars that are giving you a lift up, those are actually people. And for every time I've had a major shift in my life for the better, I can think of a specific person or conversation or situation that was led by a person that gave me the information, the support, the influence, the direction to get to that next step. It could have been a single conversation. It could have been 6 months worth of work. It could have been a therapist. It could have been so many different people, and it has been. And those people have been the ladders, or I guess the steps on the ladder that have allowed me to go from peak to peak. And then, we get on one place, and guess what? There's another ladder that we have to put next to it, and we continue to go up, right? That's how the world actually works. And yes, we are all contributing towards that individually, and we're all operating in excellence so we can succeed at that as individuals, but we're doing these things as a group, as a group. And that's the only way that we can see success, within that model and within that structure. And that's where we want to be, and that's what we want to make our focus, right? So really think about that. But the challenge is getting to the top itself. But as a society and as an organization, we're all just puzzle pieces. And the bigger your dream is, the more puzzle pieces you're going to need. But those pieces are people, And when you're kids, you go out and you get this little basic puzzle, and there's only 4 or 5 pieces to it, and it's really easy. But they make that for infants and toddlers. You know what I mean? Because they're the ones that have to, deal with all that, right? They're the ones that are still trying to figure out this whole life thing. They don't really know. They don't have all their, motor skills or whatever. So they have those little 5 puzzle pieces, and, it's a picture of Big Bird or whatever on there, right? But as adults, we buy puzzles that it's like, oh, this is a scene in Paris with the Eiffel Tower in the middle, or, this is this family portrait that we've created a puzzle out of, or, whatever it is, like this beautiful piece of art, right? And everything looks really, really similar, but in fact, each piece is a little bit different, right? But each piece is essential. And what we do is we create a strategy to where we figure out, some people start with the edges, some people start here or there, and we just slowly start putting the pieces together until we get a full picture. Well, that's what it is when it comes to people and human beings, is that whatever that full picture is going to be for us as a society and, in your organization, in your business, in your life, you are slowly putting the pieces together of the right people. Now, the problem is we get stuck not because, people don't stay around forever. We get stuck because it's almost like we pull pieces from the wrong box and we try to put them all together to create our picture. So it's like, hey, you know what? And imagine this, if you had a puzzle set, right? And you're like, oh, I'm having a really hard time with this, right? But instead of searching through your box for the right piece that goes for your picture, you go and grab a piece from another box for another picture, and you try to retrofit it into your puzzle. It may kind of work, but the picture just never finishes quite right. There's always going to be that little what is that? This is the Eiffel Tower in New York City? This doesn't make sense. Is that a foot where there's supposed to be a window? It just doesn't work. And that's why it's important to learn how to attract great people, because they are going to make sure that your full picture comes together. Now, some of you are like, well, what if I'm an introvert? Well, introverts still interact with people and still need people. They just interact with people in a different way. And I believe that we would all be better if we learned how to build relationships and to love and everything else when it comes to people like introverts. Why? Introverts may not have 1,000,001 people around them, but they tend to build deep and meaningful relationships, and they tend to foster those relationships better than extroverts do at times, because they're like, look, we're not going to have 5 million people around us. So what I'm going to do is do a great job getting this person in, um, and fostering the relationship and making sure that, this is a give situation to where I'm giving, they're giving. And, I want to make sure that this relationship is deeply meaningful. And you'll notice that introverts tend to have long-term relationships over a long period of time. And so it doesn't mean that you're not going to do a great job or that you're not going to be able to attract enough people. You'll probably just build more deep and meaningful relationships, and then obviously bring some extroverts in there to keep the party going, right? So remember, everything that we do and all of our life decisions will in fact be determined by not only our actions, but they will be influenced by the people and the voices around us. So this is what you want to do, because obviously you all have great goals. You have things that you need to accomplish. So we have to attract great people into your business, into your life. And the first step you have to take, and the first thing that you have to acknowledge, is that you have to have something to offer. I am amazed at times of people who complain about loneliness but don't realize that they have nothing to offer another individual. Meaning, give me a reason to want to be around. I tell people all the time, I'm not your mama. Your mama loves you. I love you too. But your mom's going to love you despite everything else. You could do nothing and she's still going to love you. The rest of the world isn't going to treat you that way. It should be that way, but that's not a reality. You have to have something to offer. Are you a great friend? Do you provide great company? Are you a great listener? Are you helpful? Do you give advice? And most importantly, are you prepared to contribute towards this relationship first? And I tell people, I never want to invest in any relationship in which I'm not willing to contribute towards first. Contribute my energy, my attitude, my ideas, my efforts, and all of those things. Now, ideally, both partners are coming in with that mentality, and both are giving to where it ends up being a mutually satisfying relationship that works. But it's the same thing for companies, etc. I have people who have so many challenges with recruiting, but they don't really think, what do I have to offer to this recruit? How are they going to be better by being a part of my organization? What's going to happen when they're under my tutelage? What about their life, their dynamic, their mindset, their abilities, their possibilities is going to change because of me, because of my organization. And you have to have that. So the first thing I want you to write down is, what do I have to offer? And write it all out. Number 2, you need to be able to verbalize what it is you bring to the table. And what that does is it makes sure and it ensures that A, you don't just have all these great things, but you know how to promote it. Hey, this is what's going to happen if you work with me. This is the part of your life that is going to change. This is what I'm about, and this is what I'm not about. And you need to verbalize that. So what I want you to do is write down some sentences that explain what it is people are going to get from working with you, from being in your organization, from being in your life. So you know what you have to offer, and you're able to verbalize it. Third thing you need to do is you need to have a mission. What's your mission? What is it that you're setting out to do? I don't like to spend a lot of time with people, even in friendships, that don't have a mission. Why? Because people who have nothing to lose definitely aren't afraid of getting you in a jam. Let's normalize spending time with people who have something to lose. That way, the decision making, and the desire to make good decisions is pretty equal. If you have ever spent time with someone who has nothing to lose, then you know how slippery of a slope that can be. So you need to have a mission. Missions and visions are really what attracts people because it allows them to see in their mind how they can be a part of this. From business, hey, I want to do XYZ. I'm going to build the largest, organization of self-made female millionaires, or I'm going to build the biggest organization of reputable blah, 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 right? What is it that you're on a mission to do? And it even makes sense for your friendships too. Because you want to have people as friends and in your network that not only have similar values, but sometimes have similar goals, maybe not in the same industries or whatever, but meaning you want to build relationships with people that are going to allow you to grow together. Because if you build a lot of relationships with people where you want to go to the moon and they're like, no, I'm good on the front porch, then eventually you're going to grow apart and there's going to be some sort of resentment that builds. So I like to figure out, like, hey, friend, what is it that you're doing? What's going on right now? What's your goals? Da, 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 da. And also so we can know how we can support each other as not only friends, but also as business partners. So you have to have some sort of mission. Number 4, decide to be an overcomer. I can't tell you the number of people I've listened to their interviews and the way that they speak with people. And they have such a scarcity mindset that they can't attract anyone. The way that they speak, it's always like, oh, and this is happening, and this is happening, and blah, 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 and I need someone to help with this problem, that problem, that problem, right? I want to work for the person and with people that are like, look, no matter what happens, we overcome, we excel, and we conquer, period. No one wants to be, great people don't want to be attached to those who live their lives from a defensive place and from a negative point of view. No one. No one, no one, no one. So decide that you're going to be an overcomer, right? Decide that you're going to be on the proactive side of things and that you're not the person who is so engulfed in the problems that they can't see what's great out there. And let me tell you, there is nothing more attractive and attracting than someone who has an abundance mindset. There's more than enough out here. We're going to figure this out. We're growing. Everything's going well. And think about it like this. Who wants to sign up for a losing team, to be a part of a losing team? No one does. So you have to really make sure that you have an abundance mindset and that you're an overcomer. Number 5, you got to be willing to show yourself. People need to know who you are. And I know that we live in the world to where, branding, you got to do with this, you got to do with that, and everything just seems very stale. And that's why so many people are in the wrong organizations, working with the wrong people and the wrong industries because they cannot find you. Because nothing about you stands out from the rest. It's so funny. I get on Instagram now and it feels like every brand now that all of their colors are nude. I don't know if I'm buying, literally I saw a candle company and I had no idea if I was buying from them or like one of my friends' companies or another company because all of their branding looks exactly the same. And I get it. Everyone wants a modern aesthetic and things like that. But how do you differentiate between going with one or the other if everything looks, smells, sounds, whatever the same, but what all it is it's just like a facade. It gives no one it doesn't give anyone anything to connect to. And that's not what you want to do. You want someone to see you, see your organization and say, oh, I get that. I get that. And I see that. And I understand that because that's something reminds me of blah, blah, blah. And I'm able to connect with it. So make sure that you're willing to show yourself, right? People want to know who you are. Number 6, have proper expectations and give people the right expectations. They need to know what it is and what it isn't. When I would talk to people, when I would interview people, when I'm recruiting, anything like that, I give them the good, the great, the ugly, and the okay. And I lay it all out there. So that way that person has the proper expectations and that they can truly say within themselves whether or not they have what it takes, whether or not they have the stuff. And most of the time they do. But the name of the game is people don't mind negatives. They hate surprises. One of my old coaches used to tell me that all the time, Ken. He would tell me that all the time. People don't mind negatives. They hate surprises. Don't surprise anyone. And let me tell you, that transparency is going to attract so many more people than your competition. Because it lets people know that they can count on you to keep it real. And it also teaches them that they can trust you to develop them past whatever those challenges are. Because if I can tell you what the challenge is, then it's very likely that I can give you the answer to that challenge as well. So definitely focus on that. You have to be consistent and you have to have emotional maturity. Many people have already experienced high levels of dysfunction in their households. They don't want to come into your house and experience the same thing. They've had enough. Your house either being your actual house, meaning, where you live, your house is being like who you are, your soul, your experience, and your house being your business. Either way, no one wants to come into your house and continue to experience dysfunction. So, you've got to be consistent. Do what you're supposed to do, the way you're supposed to do it, and the way you've promoted it all the time. Consistency is also breeds trust. It's things that no matter what are going to happen day or night, you trust it. It's like the best train. It's like going and waiting for the train in, certain cities. And when that train is on time every day, you're not questioning whether or not you should take it. We're right here. This train is on time. We are here. I'm not going to be late. I can take this every day of my life. When you're like, if I don't have a lot of extra time, maybe I should just Uber or drive. You want to be consistent. Right? And then the emotional maturity. No one wants to deal with your highs and lows. You've got to be able to deal with and roll with the punches as they come and handle the pressure of the vision and what you're looking to take on. Emotional maturity. And people look at that. Because remember, attracting the right people isn't about getting them there. Attracting the right people is about getting them there and keeping them there to make sure that you guys together can work together long enough to accomplish said vision. I need to be able to bring people into my life long enough to where not only am I learning from who they are, but I'm also able to make, a mark in their life to where their life is benefiting from being in my presence as well. And it has to be a mutual exchange. So you got to be emotionally mature and you got to be consistent. And if you need help with that, please comment on it. And we're going to talk about this. And that's actually going to be, and that could become a lesson if that's what you guys need. And then the last points I'm going to make is being open to feedback and honesty. Great people don't want to have to feel like they've got to purse their lips all the time. Why? we're not so focused on whether or not your feelings are going to be hurt. I don't want to say anything hurtful to you, but I need to be effective. And great people are very focused on being effective. They are focused on getting ahead. They're not focused on so much how they're making you feel. Now, part of that is we live in a society now where people are ultra sensitive to the point to where you can't give them the feedback that's going to transform their lives. You have to make sure that you're not one of those individuals. You have to be open to feedback and honesty, and you have to constantly ask for it. After every meeting that I have with a team or with mine, I say, okay, let's look at this. Out of everything we covered, what do you think is a great idea? What do you think is a terrible idea? What do you think could be a waste of time? Or do you think it's all great? And we discuss it. Sometimes those are things that we pull out and say, okay, I can see that. Let's chew over this before we implement that. But this, okay, I get it, but also let me give you more information as to why we're doing that. Because if you feel like it's a waste of time, then that means there's something I haven't communicated, right? Or it could just actually be a waste of time. And the last one, or the last few, you have to be ready to develop people or offer some form of development. There's 4 levels of leadership. And leadership is just influence, right? But people will follow you first because of your position. Oh, you're the boss. Okay, great. Or, oh, you've got this connection or whatever, right? The second reason they'll follow you is because they want to, and you got their permission. Okay, they're like, you know what? When I say that you have their permission, they've consciously made a decision like, you know what? I'm gonna follow this person. I like them. And it's more of like a feeling at that point, right? The third reason they follow you is production. What it is that you can do. The fourth one is people development. This is the most common one that I see people miss. A lot of people will just take the production and they'll just run with it. Right? Look, you see what we can do. We run this, we done that. Our company's done this amount of billions in sales or whatever, right? But just because you're able to do it doesn't mean you're able to teach me anything. I want to know by the time it's over that I'm going to be able to do it, whatever it is. So people development is the most important thing. People leave relationships, positions, jobs, organizations, churches, religions, societies, social groups. They leave everything. Look, their parents' households, whatever, when they stop growing and learning. They say relationships are always over once both of those individuals stop growing, or when one of those individuals stop growing. And at that point, the relationship becomes over. So you need to offer development in some form or fashion, and also you need to develop yourself. But you have to be constantly committed to growing and being a lifelong learner. If you're leading people, if you're influencing people, whether they're friends, families, co-workers, employees, team, society, they need to know that their leader is someone who's constantly growing and getting better. No one wants to work with someone that they know that if they start working with them in 2022, they're going to be exactly the same in 2032 without any growth. That is signing someone up for the worst Groundhog's Day in life, because they know that the problems they see will never get better because this person is never growing. And once someone sees problems that they don't like and they know they'll never get better, they don't want to be with them anymore. They don't want to be there anymore. And the last two is be great to people even when they aren't great to you. That is so That is so hard. But in my early businesses, when I worked and I managed a larger team day to day, that was one of my goals, especially towards the latter end of it. Once I kind of got through the very egotistical, know it all, don't tell me anything, the things that I'm teaching you these points off of was a very bad example of myself in the beginning of my career. But one of the things that I wanted people to say, whether or not it worked out for us long term, because every relationship does not have to be permanent to be effective. Sometimes we see people leaving as a bad thing. No, people go from place to place to place, and you may just be a stop on their journey. But I never want people to leave angry. And I always want people to feel as though I have been more than fair and that working with me was a win-win scenario. It's just their time was done one way or the other. And I've had people that I've fired that have come back and told me thank you. Right? Because sometimes you firing someone and letting them go is what's best for them. Now they may be mad in the moment, right? But sometimes firing someone is my way of being good to them and not having them linger in a business, in a role, in an environment that is not going to foster what it is that they have. And the last thing, you got to show some emotion. This can be hard, but meaning, and when I say show your emotion, I don't mean like just be emotional, right? But people need to connect with a feeling. They want to connect with some energy. People don't want to walk into your business, into your salon, into your life, into your household, into your house, right? And feel like they're at the library every day. You gotta connect. Show some emotion, show some feeling. You know, and I know that we live in this society where everything is like social media or whatever. And it's sometimes I go online and I feel like I'm looking at bots. I watch reality TV shows sometimes and it's like, what are we going to do today? Oh, we're going to do this. Da, da, da. And really nothing is happening. No one's showing any real emotion, but like everything is just the aesthetic of it. And and it's like, I'm going to show you a beautiful facade. I'm going to show you a beautiful house, a beautiful lifestyle, all of these things. But I'm not going to show you myself because we know that you're going to be more connected to the aesthetic. But like what happened to, you know, what happened to a society where people weren't afraid to make you feel something? Because that feeling is what attracts great people. Because no one wants to go to any experience and leave feeling empty or dead or as though nothing has happened. And if you walk into your business, if you walk into anything that you're doing and everything just feels dead, know that it's going to die soon. You know, if you see an animal, sometimes have you ever seen a dead animal that hasn't died yet? But how do you know it's going to die? It's not moving. It's not making any noise. There's no energy coming from it. And although it's not dead yet, it's going to be dead soon. It's the same thing for your organization, the same thing for your vision, same thing for your life, same thing for your relationship, same thing for everything that you do. Where there is no emotion, when there's no feeling, it will be dead soon. So, and that's something that we all have to get better with. You know, just because we've been conditioned to kind of like bot it out. You know, it's like, just wear nudes. Make your face. Don't show any emotion. Talk real flat. Never say anything wrong. Never do anything controversial. You gotta seem cool. You know what I'm saying? And that's a very defensive stance, you know, to take. So show some emotion. And lastly, and this is just more of a practical thing, make sure that everything that you do stands out. Let's say you are writing ads, you know, for LinkedIn or something like that. You're trying to hire employees. Make sure that those ads don't look like every single one. Make sure you have statements that make that person, connect with your organization emotionally, that connect with the feeling they get day to day. Like, I wrote an ad for someone, and once I got to see what their business is like and stuff like that, it was like, hey, are you tired of being bored at work? That is something that so many people connect with, right? If so, apply here. No one here is ever bored. People are like, they'll know what the job is, they'll do this, but it's just like, okay, well, great. It is this job. I do qualify in this area, but most importantly, I'm going to go to this company because they're not boring. And that's the last thing I want is another boring job. So make sure that you're standing out. And that goes back into showing emotion. That goes, back to showing people that and telling people your story, right? And making sure you know your story, because your story is what's different from everyone else's. Your story is what's different from everyone else's. And your story has shaped you, has shaped your existence, has shaped the way that you interact with the world, and has shaped the way that you do things. And people who connect with your story will also connect with your vision, who will also connect with your organization, who will also connect to your mission, and will also connect to you. And guess what? Vice versa. You're going to connect to them. Why? Because y'all have connection. So I don't want to continue to belabor these points, but go through the workbook. And I want you to really figure out, and at the end, once you've developed an answer for all of these questions and you have an answer for them, I want you to write down where you're most likely to meet these people, what they're most likely to respond to, and how you will probably meet them. And then make a list of maybe events, websites, whatever, where you're more likely to run into people like this. Whether you want to expand your social circle, whether it's your business, whether it's your relationships, maybe, you're looking to settle down, you want to be in a relationship. Once you've answered these questions, then you'll know how to attract people that are a great fit. Oh, and lastly, I want you to really, when we went back and said the good, the bad, and the ugly about what it is that you do and what you're looking for, I want you to write down the type of person who can handle that. Because everything is not for everybody. And everyone is not for everybody. I know I'm not for everyone, right? But someone always is, but you need to be able to recognize who that person is so that way you don't miss them. Because someone who would work well with me is probably or may not be someone who would work well with you. But the goal is for you to figure out who would work well for you and not to go after who would be the best fit for me or for some other person. So, but fill out the workbook. Please, please, please comment, ask questions. I want you guys to be way more interactive. I'm going to be way more interactive in the chat, and we're going to all grow together. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all.